Hey, Cricut Joy people. I'm Kristi. I am from createahandmadeholiday.com. I teach crafters how to make handmade gifts on time, on budget, and with no stress. And so that is where I'm coming from. I have gotten into paper crafting lately, and that's why I'm here. So my project is the Easy Paper Stack keychain. And this keychain is so easy to make, and it can be made with words, with like clip art, or anything that you can do on the Joy. The only thing that it can't do what the Joy can't do, what I learned is that there's no print and cut with the Joy, but that's okay because you can still make the paper stack keychain with easier to cut clip art. And so that's what this is. And I actually have this video inside of the VIP pass. So basically what this is it's just like 13 pieces of paper, basically. And I used cover stock, I think it's American, I don't know what kind, but anyways, it's a thicker cover stock, and it's five what am I trying to say? 5 cutouts of the bottom, the brown, and it's 5 cutouts of the white, and then it is 3 of the top layer. So this works out really well in the Joy because, well, of course, the keychains are going to be pretty small, and so they're not hard to do or anything. And I show you exactly how to use the offset tool to make the offsets, the white offset and the brown offset. And obviously you can do them in whatever color that you like. Some of the other things that can be done, I know that not everybody here has a Joy. And if you are here and you don't have a Joy, you could make things that have a little bit more of a, different kind of edge, not just a straight edge. So it's a really fun craft. I made a whole ton of them when I started learning how to do it, and it's just so nice. And here's a little tip for you. If you use the spray-on adhesive, that makes this go so much faster than using white glue. So that's really fun. Okay, so Karen says, hello, love this technique. Would like to know of some other things we could make in this manner. Also, can you use just fonts, or could you use shapes for kids? You know what? You can actually do anything. This is, as long as, if you have a Joy, as long as you're able to cut out the top layer. So this one's really easy because it's a circle. So all I had to do was just cut out the cookie clip art, right? And then everything else, like the layers underneath the cookie, those ones could just be cut out by the Joy. If you have a different machine, any other machine, you can do things like this that have more defined edging and that sort of thing, because you will have the print and cut. So for this one here, if you're going back to the Joy, if you don't have print and cut, it's fine. The only one that you can't cut out, that the Joy won't cut out, is just this top one. So you can absolutely do that with other things. You also don't need to make them keychains necessarily. These could be like book plates. I think this would be really super cute, like on the front of a journal or something. And in that case, you then just wouldn't need to put that extra circle right here, No, I don't laminate the keychain. Facebook user is asking, do you laminate the keychain? I don't. What I do is instead I use UV resin. And if you are familiar with resin, you know, whatever kind you're familiar with is fine. I just use UV because the resin, the epoxy resin that I had wasn't mixing up right. It was probably too old. So I grabbed some UV resin and it covers nicely. Some papers, just so you know, some papers will like absorb the resin, the first layer of the resin, and it ends up looking kind of dry. And then sometimes there'll be like a little dot right there or something, or a couple of dots or whatever. And it's not a big deal, but any kind of resin is going to make it nice and strong. Wait, I just cut my nails today. So, but yeah, it makes them nice and strong. And so that is what I've got about that, but you're welcome to ask any questions that you want. I really enjoyed, oh, Linda says, can the bottom layer be made from faux leather and still use UV resin? That's a good question. I would think so, but I don't have any experience with that, but that would be a really, really interesting thing to try. Yeah, maybe I'll try that. Because I think that the faux leather would probably maybe be as thick as the bottom 5 layers of the cardstock. So that might be, you know, a way to save time. The thing I might be worried about is that the back of the faux leather may absorb in a different way that I'm not used to. So I wouldn't be able to speak to that. But yeah, I think that would actually be a really cool thing to try. As long as the faux leather wasn't all that expensive, I guess, because part of the coolness of using a faux leather is like the feel and the maybe the texture or whatever. And so the UV resin might, or any kind of resin might cover that up, or might, you know, lessen that experience, you know, or the reason why you are actually adding that to the project itself. The other thing you can think about is if it is a stiff-ish faux leather, you may not have to do the resin on that. You could probably do the first 2 layers and then glue the last layer on to the leather or the faux leather. And so, I don't know, there's a lot of things you could do. It'd be nice to test that out. Maybe I'll do that. And so if no, I don't see any other questions. So I'm going to go ahead and just talk about other stuff. Oh, here's Erin. Have you tried other products besides paper for these? No, I haven't tried other products. That's an interesting idea. I've only really just done them in paper, cardstock. So some of the other things that if you have a Joy that you could probably do, I was asked to show some of the other things that I do with paper crafting. And so, but, you know, go ahead and ask about the project if you like, but, or about these ones I'm going to show you. So this is a valet that I made for my youngest and for my kids, you know, and they are Dungeons and Dragons kids. This is about 4 or 5 inches tall. This is just a flat tray that I got from Dollar Tree. I painted it black, spray painted it black, and added the D&D decal. And that's going to be a really cool thing for them to put their keys in and those kinds of things, you know, because people like to have a place to put their keys and to know where to find those. And another thing that I make often in summits, I will create actually cut files for junk journals. So if you're not familiar with a junk journal is basically something that you can make I believe they started out as actually you're using things like cereal boxes and plastic from wrappers and things like that as kind of an upcycle project, but they've really gotten big. And now you can buy like special papers that are really cool. And there's lots of different things to do with them. But I design files that can be used to create junk journals and stuff. And so a junk journal that you might have in your junk journal, like tea-dyed papers that you make, printed papers you get on Etsy or something, tea-dyed book pages, and things like that. And so once you have your base file, you can do stuff like this, you know, and have your Cricut cut out like things like that, like just square stuff if you want. I did this one. Oops, not that one. This one here. And that was a, you know, just a PNG file that I got from Creative Fabrica. And you can have it do things like this. And the cool thing about that particular piece of, or that particular embellishment is that it came from this. And this is a little pocket that I did. And that was the cutout right here. So I used it for further embellishment. And then you can use it for, you know, frames and signs and all these different kinds of things. You know, this one is shaped like a kite, and it has, you know, there's a word kite in a description there. But you can use your Cricut to, you know, in conjunction with just using, and you can use junk, you know, you can really do a lot with a your cereal boxes and things like that. And so you can combine your Cricut stuff along with that. You can also make little tags like these, and these little tags are super cute to put on your journals, or, you know, other things. You could probably put them on a ribbon and use them as a bookmark or something, and all that good stuff. And so this is another that I did, and I created the files for the cover, and for, again, some of the items inside of here, not all of them, so I don't want to mislead you, but some of the items in here that are the more simple things, like you know, some of the tags and some of the pockets and things like that. But really the sky is the limit, you know, with what you can do with your Cricut. There's so many different things. And another thing that I just started doing was personalizing fleece blankets, which is really fun. And I personalized this one a little bit low, but that's okay. But I did this with sparkly heat transfer vinyl, and I love it. It's so cute. And another thing I recently made on my cutting machine is t-shirts. And so I made this for my youngest. She is they're a Hobo Johnson fan. So I made that, and I don't know if anybody knows who that is, but anyways, those are a lot of the things that I have made for gifts for people in my family. And like I mentioned before, I make all of my gifts handmade pretty much, unless it's something like, you know, my kids need something for their house or something like that, like a appliance or whatever. But generally speaking, I make all of my handmade gifts. I'm not stressed out about it ever. I work on it all throughout the year in ways that are fast, I guess you could say. You know, I have some really, really cool ideas for how to make gifts fast. Lots of ideas for things like how to make, and this would be really, really good for Cricut users, or even, you know, any die cutter users. you know, to be able to learn how to assembly line, you know, gifts and things. That's a method that I use. And I also use a method called bulk, which means, and I don't know if you could do that. I'll have to test it out and think about it a little bit, but it's how to make, you know, 10 or 12 of the same item, you know, within 2 hours, so that you can fill your gift closet with lovely things. And also, of course, you can use your Cricut to do cards and fill your closet with the birthday cards, the Christmas cards, or whatever your holiday is, with those greeting cards, so that you just have them and you're not caught with, I don't know about you, but to gather everything together and make one card, you know, is like, it's fun, but it's kind of a task, you know, when you have to have a gift tomorrow. So that's what I like to do with those things. And that's how I use my silhouette. I have a silhouette, but I also use Cricut, and I know how to do both. But that's how I use my die cutter to help me to make handmade gifts. And I am doing more with that. Elisa says, how do these keychains hold up over time and use? You know what? They're going to hold up really well, especially if you have a good, solid coverage with your UV resin. You know, I think that UV resin, it seems to me that it's a little bit less thick. So you're going to need a few layers of it. But the good news is that you can do a layer and then you can put it like on a windowsill in the sun, or you can use, you know, a UV light. If you do your nails, you know, and you need a UV light for that, you can use that. And it takes about 5 minutes maybe to dry each layers. But I would be generous with the layers, you know, I mean, don't glop it on, but just, you know, be generous enough that you're willing to do a few layers, and that will keep it waterproof and everything else that you need. And make sure that when you do your ring right here, make sure that you cover that really well too, because you don't want the wear and tear from the keys being on here to be able to break that off. So the other option is you don't have to do that. That would be probably the one area that I would be concerned about, you know, is having this extra loop here. But you can also do something like, you know, I poked holes in these, and it went through all the layers just fine. And I did that with a let me see what that's called again. Crocodile. I did that with a crocodile. They're really, really strong and will poke holes through that. So I did that with that one and with this one, and with this one as well. So because actually I forgot to put the loop on some of these ones. So I just tried it out with the crocodile and that worked. But you're just going to want to make sure that you cover the paper 100%, because if anything like wet, if the part that's not covered gets wet, it is going to seep in and ruin it. So that's what I would make sure. Oh, this too. Also make sure that when you are gluing your layers down, that there is no gap in here. Like none of these are coming up anywhere. You want, and that's why I love the spray glue. It's, I believe it is like, even you can pull it up and then reposition it and stuff. If you ask me in the chat below, I'll get the name of it, but I think it's called like Krylon, you know, glue, sprayable glue or whatever, repositionable maybe. I think it's pretty much as simple as that. But if you can't find it, you know, you can tag me in the comments and I will find that for you. But yeah, you just want to make sure that every single edge, you know, is flush and also not coming up, you know, anywhere. because the UV resin will not glue that. You know, I tried that because I like to cut corners. Yeah, I would think so. Pam Monday says, would it work on paper such as glitter, etc.? I would think so. I would think so. I have not used it that way, but I think it would be definitely worth a try, especially if you're trying to avoid, you know, the glitter falling off, or, you know, the feeling of some like glitter pages are really rough. I think I have one in here that's just really like unpleasantly rough. Some of the papers, I don't know where it's at, but anyways, oh yeah, here it is. So this is one that I got in the scrapbook section, and it's kind of, you know, unpleasant and rough. So if you're trying to cover that sort of thing up, you know, I think it would probably work. A lot of times, you know, all we need to do is just really try it, you know, because not only can you use UV resin for this, but you'll be able to use it for lots of other things too that you want to cover. And so, and I think that if you buy the UV kind and not the epoxy, it's much, much cheaper. It's like $7 versus like 20 or 30. So that's what I saw. So hi, Julia. Julia says, sorry, I'm late. How long do you keep it under the UV lamp? Okay, so this is a thing. So a UV lamp usually will only stay on for 45 to 60 seconds, as far as what I've been able to see, because when I was making these, it kept going off. And so I'm like, isn't there a UV lamp out there that will stay on for 5 minutes? But there isn't that I could find. If anybody knows of one, please tell me. So basically, to answer the question, what I would have to do is put it under, put the front under the UV lamp and turn it on like 3 or 4 times so that it goes, I don't know, 3 to 4 minutes. And that's usually enough. And then you got to do it on the back too. Alternatively, you can do one side and then put it on a windowsill in the sun. And that takes longer. You know, it's estimated on the package that it would take like an hour. And so, you know, there's that. And the UV lamps are really, really inexpensive. They're like $6 or $7 or something. And they do make the job go faster, but it is irritating to have to keep, you know, turning it on every time. I really would wish that, you know, it would give me the option of putting it on for 3 or 4 minutes. So, anyways, if you guys are interested, I do stuff like this, like the keychains. How do you know how many layers of resin to use? You don't know, Pam. You won't know until you put it on. But customarily, I do about 3 layers on both sides. So, you know, if you're waiting an hour for each layer, that takes a long time. So, you know, a UV lamp, spending $6 or $7 for a UV lamp, you know, would be worth it, even just for this, you know, even just for this one project. And you can make a whole ton of these pretty quick if you made them in bulk, you know. Especially if your grandkids or kids like a specific character or whatever, you could make the same one, only different colors, whatever. You know, you can do names, which makes it a little bit more difficult because you'd have to make a different set of cut files every time if you're doing names, but it's really nice. What I did with these are for my kids. And I just made them in different colors, you know, and did the same exact project, but changed the colors on this one. So I bought the file like this in these colors, but I changed them to these colors for one of my children. So there's that. So Erin's asking, are there some UV resins that are better than others? I would think so. I've only used one kind. What I will say is if you have UV resin or any kind of resin at home that you've had for over a year, it would probably be better to replace that. If you're new to resin, UV resin is easier, but not as good as epoxy resin. But epoxy resin has, there's like a learning curve with that, in that you have to measure precisely or else it won't mix correctly. And if it doesn't mix correctly, it's not going to dry correctly. And so if you're new to resin, you know, you can save some money and see if you like the UV. And you don't have to have the extra tools for it. You know, it'll just come with what you need. I think you'll need probably a paintbrush, maybe just one of those flat paintbrushes, a small one, not the kind that that bristles come out of, because that's really horrible. If you get the bristles stuck in the resin, yeah, your project is messed up. But anyways, yeah, new people should probably start with UV resin and see if they like it. If they don't like it, you're not out a lot of money. You can move on to epoxy resin, but just remember that you're probably going to want to have a digital scale on hand if you're doing that, if you're using the epoxy resin, because there is more of a learning curve to it, and it is very temperamental, and it takes much, much longer to dry. So that's the other upside to UV resin, but UV resin isn't, you know, it's not as good. So, you know, there's all that. So let's see. So Text Judy is asking, does the UV resin put off the fumes as the same way as epoxy does? I haven't had that experience at all. I mean, there's probably a smell to it, but I think I would remember if it was a pretty strong smell. I know that when using epoxy resin, people say, you know, you need to have your window open or whatever. You know, it's not a, it's a harmful, I guess, a harmful substance to smell, you know, for a long time. So I have not had any problem with it without doing anything different, like opening a window or anything like that. Let's see. All right. Okay, cool. So it looks like we are pretty much done. And I just want to let you guys know that if you would like to connect with me, you can go to createahandmadeholiday.com, and right there on my front page, I have a freebie that you can grab if you haven't already. From my video. It's called 50 Handmade Gifts Your Friends and Family Will Love to Get. And it's not only Cricut stuff. As a matter of fact, I don't think I have any Cricut stuff in there, but if you are a handmade gift maker, you know, that is a really good resource to have. I also have a Facebook group called Handmade Gift Bosses. It's free. I do 2 workshops a week, and I am adding more Cricut stuff as I get more Cricut people in there. And so you can catch me over there. And I think that's probably it. Oh, you can get me at Instagram at createahandmadeholiday.com. And yeah, that's pretty much me. Upcoming events. Next week, I am doing a, let's see, beading, wire wrapping, and leather event. So if you're interested in that, you could go to createahandmadeholiday.com and click on the menu where it says, what is this month's free event? And you can sign up for that. Thank you so much. I think